Hello, everyone. We've got Kendrick Nguyen, CEO of Republic, with us today. We're talking about how crowdfunding investors on Republic are investing more in underserved communities. So more minorities, more women are getting funding. This is exciting. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Kendrick, welcome to the show.
Devin, thank you for having me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. What you're doing, of course, I love crowdfunding. And one of the reasons I've always been excited about crowdfunding is because of what you are actually doing. The venture capital industry, not so good about allocating capital to women and minorities. I've always seen crowdfunding as being a way to address that, but what you're seeing is that it's actually working. Tell us about that.
It's been 2 years since investment crowdfunding, because the different types of crowdfunding, where you have donation-based, but people actually investing irrespective of income or net worth, is now we're just on the 2-year anniversary mark. So we have some now traction, and looking back at our own statistics, at the percentages of investors and entrepreneurs who are diverse from all different backgrounds, and not just Silicon Valley and Silicon Alley. And I can say, glad to report that the mission, the goal, the hopes that we had when setting out to launch Republic has proven itself to be true in part.
It's really exciting. You recently published some data in a report to demonstrate how much progress you've been making. What are some of the highlights of that report that you're most excited about?
If you look at the number of women founders who represent, almost 50-50 of entrepreneurs in the US, and the venture capital that goes to women founders is, in the single digit in certain years, and hovering around 10, 11 to 14% in some other years, which reflects a great inequality. And on our platform today, some 45% of capital invested on Republic have gone to team with a woman founder. And the number of minorities, and this is not Asians graduating from Stanford. We're talking about the more underrepresented, that is Latino American and African American founders. The numbers of those the percentage is well above 30% on our platform so far.
Why is it working so well at Republic? What are you doing?
There are some hypotheses as to why the landscape is so uneven, or has been so uneven in venture. And I don't think it's out of any deliberate intention to be biased, but we tend to pick and choose and have conviction in people who come from a similar background. So who are venture capitalists? Predominantly males from the Stanford, MIT, and Columbia of the world. And when they select in-person projects or teams that they believe in, it happened that psychologically, people tend to look and come from that same background. I think behind a computer screen, when it's more merit-based, when it's more on the fundamentals of a business idea, that psychological bias, inadvertent as it may be, naturally gets mitigated, substantially mitigated.
These are really important issues, because obviously, if we're not investing in women, if we're not investing in minorities, not only are they missing out, but we're missing out on what they would have done. Right? You think back a generation, right? And you figure out that 50% of the population in the generation when Steve Jobs and Bill Gates grew up weren't engaged. and we didn't fund them. We didn't invest in them, all kinds of errors. But think about how much more innovation we might have seen if the other 50% of the population had been engaged at the same level, right?
I can't agree more. But and also instead of, in addition to looking backward and look and analyze what could have been, one of our approaches is to look forward on what will be. So if you look at the last 3 decades since the 1990s, businesses around the world, primarily funded by just venture capital, have lifted 1.3 billion people out of poverty. And that's because of jobs generated and, you know, lunches and dinners now being provided in families around the world. Imagine the world where that capital pool is far larger. Imagine how many more businesses, how many more Ubers and Airbnbs will get created. So I think crowdfunding, once fully mature, once that awareness is out there, we can actually eradicate poverty through entrepreneurship, and the investors actually do well and benefit from these businesses compared to the past of just nonprofit or doing well. I think we can move toward a future of do good and do well at the same time.
Well, it is an exciting premise. We have dived right in to this discussion about gender equity, racial equity, and I think that's important. But let's take a step back and just talk a little bit about the state of investment crowdfunding. As you point out, we're about a week past the 2-year anniversary of the implementation of Regulation CF, Regulation Crowdfunding. It looks like from looking at your website that the space is going crazy. Lots of deals overfunded. What's your read on things?
2 years in today, about just over 100 million have been deployed through investment crowdfunding. But that hasn't been an even growth. It's been, a curve, not quite a hockey stick, but it's heading in that direction. If you look at the amount of money that we Americans spend buying lottery ticket per year, $80 billion, and the amount of money spent in Vegas, over $100 billion. I am a firm believer that in year 3, in year 4, you're going to see exponential performance compared to prior years, just based on traction on that investment alone. So I think we've seen the traction that I expected 2 years ago, slow at first, but it's just at that tipping point when things are gonna be much quicker and better.
Yeah. So a number of the projects on your site, a number of the companies are crypto related. Are you actually conducting ICOs, or are they raising capital on your site in a traditional way with an eye toward a future ICO?
Nowadays, you can't really talk about fintech without talking about blockchain and crypto asset, because the two go hand in hand. So what is an ICO, or initial coin offering? It's a form of crowdfunding. People around everywhere putting money in to build this project and company, except that until recently it's been done in a non-compliant way, done in a way that without any regard to securities law. So in the past 6 months, I think the landscape has firmed up on a position, the industry, that these token sales, these ICOs, by and large, are offering securities. So we leverage the same set of rules, crowdfunding, investment crowdfunding, as a way to bring open access back to blockchain in a compliant manner. So yes, we are launching true token sale or token pre-sales. And in fact, we launched our 3rd offering a few days ago. The entire campaign has been oversubscribed within 3 or 4 days, but undoubtedly there will be more introduced to the Republic user base in the weeks to come.
On the Republic platform, are you doing only Regulation CF deals, or are you also hosting Regulation A plus deals?
Today, it's just regulation CF. And quite frankly, that $1 million per company cap in the equity traditional fundraising world is a lot of money for an early stage company. Well, in the token sale world, many early stage projects can and have reason to raise a lot more. So for that reason, I think this is our very first public announcement that we will be accommodating Reg A plus offering, whereby highly credible projects can raise up to $50 million, but it is far more costly and far more lengthy to prepare for such a campaign.
I see. Well, that is exciting news. Kendrick, you've had an extraordinary career. You're super bright, and we're thrilled to get some of your insights here. What's the most important lesson you've learned in your career so far?
First of all, thank you, Devin, for that generous compliment. That's a difficult question. No one has asked me that before. The most important lesson, depending on what it is that you want to do, we obviously are setting out to build a company, and in an executive position of having the fortune of a group of really talented, colleagues working with me, but it is like a ship. And I think the most important lesson that I've learned, reflecting back on a relatively longer entrepreneur career than many, that I think paying attention and taking a step back to listen to different perspectives, but at the same time, willing and able to make decision on very limited information quickly, particularly in a world that is faster, moving faster every day. That decisiveness, but in an informed way, with humility, I think is the only way to do it.
That's great. Now, Kendrick, you could be doing anything. Like I say, you're a super smart guy. I'm intrigued by your focus on social enterprise, doing well by doing good, social justice. Why have you built a company with those values built in?
In many ways, I'm glad that I'm not a 22-year-old college grad building a tech company, and that I've had a prior career in securities law, in academia, and in business, in asset management in New York before doing this. And it took me a decade to really know for myself, that nothing is worth doing unless it's meaningful, unless it's mission driven. And it's a great way how you started out this segment, focusing right in on the mission without us even talking about it in advance. I can tell you that the effort that all of us put in, and I would say that all of my colleagues, they can find a higher paying job tomorrow if they so choose. But we put in all the effort because what we're doing we find to be very meaningful, which is how can we enable other people to live out their dream, their freedom. And it just happened that if they managed to realize their own idea, their own calling, that may generate a lot of jobs, and that's going to feed a lot more people in the world. So quite frankly, today, who knows about the future? I cannot think of a better way to spend my time, even if I'm not paid. So so I hope that that's a long-winded answer to your question, but just one word, one term, mission-driven.
That's wonderful. So Kendrick, what is your superpower?
By now, and I think the superpower somehow, some people think of superpower as something that you're born with, and I think that most things in life are learned and honed and refined over time. I think one thing that I do, at least as well as anyone that I've met, And through the years being a lawyer and then, an investor and now being an entrepreneur, is that I can read people pretty quickly on a phone call, just even through the texture of their voice. I can get a good sense of their constitution. If we spend about 5 or 10 minutes on a video call, I obviously don't know how much money they have in the bank account, but what drives that human being and whether he or she's aligned with the objective of the call of the meeting or the need of the company, and that's helpful for hiring, that's helpful for investing, and I think that's helpful in building partnership, which is what is necessary for us to achieve what we do. It takes a village to raise a child, and I think it will take many cities and countries to build the Republic vision.
Oh, that's great. Well, Kendrick, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I know you're extraordinarily busy, but if you would take just one last minute before you go and tell people how they can learn more about Republic and how they can connect with you on social media.
Yes, Republic is republic.co.co, not .com. And we hope that you find it intuitive, but if you have critiques, we love to hear from that as well. If you Google my name, Kendrick Nguyen, Nguyen, it's Twitter and LinkedIn and AngelList should be the first few results on that search. So certainly hope that you will reach out and say hi. And I promise I'll get back on any question. My schedule, like Devin noted these days, is a little insane, so it may take a few days, but I promise I'll get back to every question.
Fantastic. Well, Kendrick, again, thank you so much for being with us today. We wish you every success in helping to raise capital for underserved communities.
Thank you, Devin. It's a pleasure and an honor, and really looking forward to next time.
All righty. Let's do some good.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was recorded via Google Hangouts on Air and is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com. Learn more about Devin's work at yourmarkontheworld.com.